Check one, check two. You know what it is. Episode number 427 of the New Old Heads podcast. We talked about Freddie Gibbs versus J. Cole. That's right. Kind of a crazy matchup. But I'm telling you right now, when you put the records on the table, it's a lot closer than you think. So we had to discuss that. Legendary executive, songwriter, and producer L.A. Reid talked about what it is to hit the button on an artist and what it is to succeed in the music industry. Is that really a thing? We talked about it tonight. Also, we talked about 2 Chainz, Alchemist, and Larry June. They have a new project. And we had to talk about what the impact is, and we discuss what it is to create the definitive piece of art as opposed to just creating something that is a product, which is what it is when you're in the major label system. Once again, this is episode number 427 of the New Old Heads podcast. Get involved. You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7th. My brother Jay Moore is in the building. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Peace, freedom, and reparations. You know the vibe.
Oh, my God. My man Lonegevity is in the building. Good day.
Hello, sir.
Good to see you.
You too. Yeah.
And my man DJ Jay Diff is in the cut. How are you, sir?
Salutations. I am excellent and well.
Like to hear that.
Yeah, man.
Good to see you, gentlemen. As always.
Another day.
Another day, another dollar.
Another podcast.
Exactly. I was about to say another New Old Heads podcast.
Another dollar,
y'all know we
exactly.
be podding all the time. It's good to see you, brothers, as always.
So Freddie Gibbs just recently took a shot at J. Cole. You might have seen that on social media. And it was around the time when J. Cole dropped Clouds, right? But aside from the shot, this has kind of brought up a conversation about catalog and the argument that Freddie Gibbs actually has as one of the best hip-hop catalogs out there, but also that it's potentially superior to Cole's. So you guys have any thoughts on that?
Jay Moore, this is right up your alley. This is a classic. Put the CDs
On the
table, sir. Since that's one of the things that you coined, would you like to go first?
Sure.
I know I already have my answer.
No, I mean, because I had to think about this, we kind of workshopped it earlier in the week. And at one point, partially because I've enjoyed Gibbs' most recent output so much.
Right.
At first I was like, well, I think maybe it's true. But I was like, no, I have to still give the edge to J. Cole.
Okay.
And the thing is, when we have these conversations, it seems like, if you go with one person, you're sliding the other. That's not me trying to slight Freddie Gibbs, because
they
like I
both
said,
have great catalogs.
Especially the stuff recently, I listened to those Gibbs albums front to back, but also, I remember when I went out and bought those J. Cole. That's how long J. Cole's been around. It's I went out and bought physical copies of his CDs from
Gibbs
Best
too, though.
Buy.
He's been around long too, longer than people think.
This is true because, but I think part of his, I don't want to say stunted growth or he doesn't get the props he deserves because he was stuck with Jeezy for all that time and didn't really get a lot done.
But it wasn't really that long.
No, it wasn't that long with you.
That Jeezy was like a cup of coffee or something like that.
It might have been a year or two.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know
It
why
wasn't that
it
long.
seemed longer than that. But once Gibbs really got into his bag and figured out, for all the gangsta Gibbs, whatever, that he is a rapping ass dude and he needs to get with people who can make the beats for people who actually want to MC. And that's where he got off with, doing the Mad Lib and Alchemist. That was his bag right there.
Yeah.
But J. Cole, man, he had albums. He has albums rather, to where, I'm thinking, I went back and started re-listening to J. Cole this week because I think we've talked about him a lot. Yeah. Especially when in reference to Kendrick and the battle, if you will, and how he gracefully bowed out, which I'm not mad. And I think we talked about him so much in relation to other artists that we forgot about who Cole was as a singular artist. And so that's why I had to go back and revisit his catalog. And, like I said, he's been consistent over a long period of time at this point. And so has Gibbs. But I think I have to give it to, at this point, and, these are still artists that, they haven't fallen off in my eyes. They still do records and not just records, but
they still make good music.
They create entire projects that I like. And so right now, if to coin my, my own term, if I put the CDs on the table, I have to go ahead and in the mixtapes or whatever you want to call it. Because to me, at this point, when we talk about mixtapes, we talk about albums too. That's what it is.
For sure.
I still have to go ahead and give it to J. Cole, even though I love Gibbs. Like I said, I'm not trying to slight him at all or take sides in a battle, but
That's cool.
that's just where I'm at.
I ain't mad at that.
Yeah, I'm going Gibbs. When I think of Cold Day in Hell, Babyface Killer, ESGN, right? Then you got Pinata, Shadow of a Doubt, You Only Live Twice, Freddie, Fetty, Bandana, Alfredo with Alchemist and Currency. Was that the one? No, that was Fetty, Alfredo, and then Soul separately. Bruh, he's got, especially in the last decade, he's got 0 misses.
Is that why you wore your LRG shirt?
Maybe.
Remember he had that album that was sponsored by LRG?
Yeah,
I
for sure.
that. Yeah.
Was a mixtape though or something?
I think Cold Day in Hell was sponsored.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and granted, I think there's a little bit of Midwest bias in my, and that's one thing that I was going to depend on where you guys lean in this way. I was going to see, is there some Midwest bias in here or not? Because I don't know. I think there probably is for me a little bit because I've been following Gibbs for a very long time. I mean, even to like, if we're going to get even down to the nitty gritty, like you were literally in college on the same building that he was at the same time, right?
Yeah, same floor.
You know, I mean, I'm just saying, like you produced for him in like 2008, 9, 8, 7,
11, 12.
Nah, it wasn't
10, 11. Because I remember
9. It was the breakout.
Because he played me records off Cold Day in Hell before it came out.
Yeah, but it was a long. But I'm just saying, like, there's definitely some bias in there for us, and from that perspective. But and obviously we're in Indiana, and he's arguably the largest hip hop artist that's ever come out of Indiana.
Still claims Chicago.
Yeah, claims Chicago, right? But no, I think when it comes down to just sheer listenability, and I can put it on and play it front to back, I just know Gibbs' material way more than I know Cole's.
I would have, and I'll be honest, I would have said J. Cole probably up until about the Mad Lib phase. Once
For sure.
I saw the Mad Lib stuff, because I didn't see that coming. Him as an artist, I could see it happen, but I didn't see it coming. So when that happened and it worked twice, knocked it out the park twice, and I go back to some of those mixtapes like Straight Killer, No Filler, that is what I just say, Cold Day in Hell, Babyface Killer, these are all dope mixtapes. Back when mixtapes were still mixtapes.
Yeah.
So, and then you got Cole, obviously, he had Friday Night Lights, and there was, I'm kind of going back and forth between both of them, but overall, man, especially with Gibbs, like Jay Morris alluded to, of late, we'll call it the second half of what he's been doing. I just think top to bottom is just, I'm going to go with Lone on this one. I got to go Gibbs just for what I choose to listen to and how it flows and the product itself. No, like I said, no knock on Cole because I love J. Cole. I'm not saying he's a better rapper. I'm not doing that. I'm talking about the CDs on the table. I got to go Gibbs, man. I think his catalog is one of the most underrated catalogs in hip hop, like
ever.
Damn near ever, if not ever. Like it's that good to me. So yeah, I'm going Gibbs.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these two together because like I'm a big J. Cole fan. Like minus how much I rock with Freddie Gibbs. Yeah. And I've never put them together side by side.
Me either.
To be able to be like, well, who's better?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I would say I really don't know, man. Because when I'm thinking about when I came into listening to J. Cole, I actually was listening to J. Cole before I was listening to Kendrick. And then Kendrick kind of took his position. But I never put Gibbs with any of them for some reason. I don't know. And it may be because his genre isn't the same, so to speak. I think he kind of evolved. He evolved into what can be considered like back trap, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, he has the boom bap style beats with the street lyrics, gangster lyrics, or whatever.
That's a good point.
And it just fits a different pocket for me. So like it itches that scratch, whereas J. Cole does something different. So I don't know. It's kind of the
I
not to say that they're both, not to say they're Biggie and Tupac, but like I can never pick. Like I gravitated towards Pac because Pac to me was the heart. He was the heart, the poet, you know what I'm saying? Biggie was more so the not the brain, but he was able to structure lyrics differently. But I felt what Tupac was saying. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to Gibbs and Cole, I don't know, man. I'm kind of on the fence.
I think another important piece to this probably when we're just talking about timing, is that Gibbs came into his stride later than what Cole did.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Pinata didn't drop till 2014. So
And that's
Cole
the
was
same
already,
year.
and granted, he was dropping tons of.
Yeah.
I mean, we blog, so he was dropping records all the time.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
all, he had features all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was doing his thing. And in that, that was the Jeezy era, short lived and all that stuff too. But Cole really was established by the time.
Like Gibbs started getting his shine.
Yeah, I feel like
granted, he was getting his shine because his music is on one of the Grand Theft Auto radio stations.
Plus,
So
Gibbs-
people have heard Gibbs even if they didn't rock with Gibbs at the time. J. Cole essentially, he got the cosign from Jay,
Yeah.
so that didn't hurt
No.
in no way, shape, or form. And his first studio album was pushed. Whereas Freddie Gibbs never had that. You know what I'm saying? He pretty much, if somebody talking about grinded from the bottom, he literally
absolutely.
grinded from the bottom.
Yeah.
The first time I heard of Freddie Gibbs CD, I actually met his crew at Black Expo. They was at Black Expo passing out his music. That was my introduction to Freddie Gibbs. I think that was was it Live from Gary or?
Yeah, I remember
Live from Gary. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
I remember that.
2007.
Yeah, so that's the first time I really got hip to Freddie Gibbs.
And when you think about Cole, like the come up, the warm up, Friday Night Lights, that's
That's
all
around the same time.
That's 2010 pre.
Yeah.
Like he had 3 super solid.
But I was hip to J. Cole like that Piff era.
Yeah.
So that's before the Friday Night Lights. That's like the come up and
The warm up.
the warm up. And stuff like
Because
that.
both of them.
Because both of these guys are double XL. Top, what would they used to be, the freshman list? Or
They were both on it.
I don't know if it was together, but they both were double XL, whatever the freshman list. They may have been on the same cover. I'm not sure. I think Gibbs is on there with Nip, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So J. Cole, J. Cole, Pill,
Yep.
Nipsey Hussle, Freddie Gibbs, Big Sean, Wiz Khalifa, OJ, the Juice Man, J. Rock, Fashawn, and Donis.
I would thought so. Yep.
It's always interesting when you go back and
That's 2010.
the people who just people believed him, but it was like, no, sorry, Donis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when I think about it, though, when I'm looking at their releases, I can honestly say, as a hip hop fan, that J. Cole's stuff grabbed me from a hip hop angle until Freddie started messing with Madlib. Now, when he's, and even when I look at their releases, and it comes down to who has more classic material as far as a full release from top to bottom, Gibbs might have Cole in that area as far as listenability, as far as from top to bottom. But as an overall artist, I think J. Cole probably takes the crown as far as that's concerned.
He's got some X factors.
Yeah, he has X factors, and he's able to do the crossover thing in order to get his stuff heard. So that's the edge I would give Cole. But it's not by much, man. Freddie's using his star power in acting and movies and things like that, which Cole doesn't have.
Yeah.
So,
and he's funny.
Yeah.
So we're what? I think we're 2 and 2 on this one. Me and you, and then okay.
What was it? Hype? Was it propaganda that we just, we even said Kendrick, Drake, and Cole as the big three? It was like, well, why didn't we ever think to put these other people?
I think we.
Why?
There's a reason why. Because
but also
I don't even know where
Drake,
it came from, to be honest.
Drake had, but I think about Drake had Universal Machine, Young Money, Kendrick for
I think
all
the machine. I think that's the X factor
because
here.
Kendrick, remember that's Interscope. There was no bigger machine than Interscope at one point, and Dr. Dre, and then you talk about Cole is Jay-Z.
All three of them have big cosigners behind them.
And pretty much that cosign also with the machine. Like Freddie didn't have that.
Nah.
Even when you talk about the Jeezy era, that's not the same as the people that I mentioned.
Right, he was in a video.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah,
There's a difference between Jay-Z or Dr. Dre walking you into these buildings and saying, okay, we're going to put a certain level of resources behind this individual.
I remember he was in dealings with Interscope
early on,
early back then,
like 2005 or something.
But that, I say that to say that's where I give him his P's, because for him to be able to go out and make the records that he made without everything that we just talked about, and to consistently turn around and do that, and for it to make its way to people so people could hear it, that's just impressive to me.
And however, I don't know how it came about that he ended up working with Madlib, but that
right there
was such a pivotal.
Yeah.
It's like similar in the same sense of like Killer Mike and LP working together. It was just like it fused two different worlds and it just married so well together. Kind of took Freddie down an interesting path of going from Madlib to Alchemist as well.
Yeah.
And doing stuff with him. And then he would dip back and, then he's got some records with, K Tronada and Bad, Not Good. And, like You Only Live Once or You Only Die whatever. It's one of my favorite ones dope. That he's done, so
that project's dope.
He's never really lost. I don't know. It's really good, but I've definitely enjoyed Freddie Gibbs' stuff personally more. But I have another question. Obviously it doesn't matter, like in the grand scheme of things, like comparatively, but why are we so eager to pin artists up against each other in hip hop? One, but two, does doing so help or hurt how art is not only created, but also the expectations from the fans?
I think Terry said this as when we were talking about the battle, and I hear him say it every once in a while when we talk about how hip hop is competitive, right? So sometimes I think that spills out into the consumer just from a standpoint of, it's kind of like athletes. Jordan and LeBron, it's Bird and whoever you want, Kevin Durant for the second best small forward, or however you want to do it. I think just by nature, that's a part of it. As it relates to, I guess, what comes from the conversation, I just think music is subjective. I try not to. I used to go down rabbit holes with conversations and do paragraphs and all that, but I'm too old for that now. If you like it, that's cool. Like, I'm not mad at you. You grown. Like, I'm not about to try to force a grown man to like something that I'm like. I'm too old for that. And we do that a lot. But Lone, that's a very good question. I don't know if I can honestly answer it from the ramification standpoint of what comes from
competition.
It is built on that.
Hip hop was built on the competitive nature of competition, and like LL Cool J said, nobody can rap quite like I can. I mean, he started his rhyme with that. It's always been a big bravado about who's the best. Now, you have artists that don't care or even if seen in that same aspect, so to speak, but the ones that make it to the top or climbing a mountain to try to be at the top are always aiming at somebody else's spot. And I don't think it's vile or it's disrespectful. It's just like, in a lot of cases, it's keeping their skills sharpened to be like, I have to prove why I'm the best rapper, even though my subject matter isn't about me just being the best rapper, but it has to follow suit with what I'm claiming. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's bad for the sport. But I mean, that's just what it's built on.
Because music is it's so subjective.
It is, though.
I mean, like, is it? I feel like maybe I'm wrong here, and I'm not. I don't want to argue the point that it's built on that, because that's not what I want to focus on here. Right? This is a nuanced conversation. Is it solely built on that, though?
No, it's not solely built on that.
And is it solely built on that to the point to where, like,
that's kind of the reason why I said that they pick at it, but they still have to create the moment to make them even be seen in that light without saying that I'm better than such and such. Although I said it on this particular song, but I'm not going to say it on everything.
Because think about it, Long. You can see an interview now with, I just saw Kool Moe Dee with Willie D. I saw an interview with Kane or Rakim. They still talk about being nice. It just comes out like through casual conversation.
For sure.
They still talk about how they want it to be nice.
I'm not arguing this point, though, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, this is not a point that I'm arguing. I'm arguing more from the artistic element level of it, right? And even when we talk about other genres, granted, we're talking about hip hop and rhyming as a sport, right? We're talking about that specifically. Not hip hop as a sport, but like the art of rhyming better than somebody, right? Somewhere involved in this whole thing here too is just the artistic element of wanting to create really cool art. And I feel like even though that there are many artists that do treat that rhyming aspect as a sport, I don't know what I'm trying to get at here, but I feel like there's part of it that it's when it's competition. To me, it's different when I'm trying to like out rap somebody versus I'm just trying to be nice.
Or just make dope music, make dope art.
Yeah.
I think there is a I think there are a lot of artists, like at one point when it was, hip hop was out the park. Yes, you're trying to out rap that man next to you.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming for Cold Crush. You know what I'm saying? Then, everybody's coming for Busy Bee when you're talking about a solo aspect. But then when it got to a point where it was less than about that than it was, I'm trying to create a definitive body of work. And that is more important to me. I'm not thinking about the next man when I am in the studio writing rhymes and telling the producer to take this out and that out because I want to create something. Maybe you're not thinking about, oh, this is going to be legendary, but I'm thinking about doing the best I can, and this is solely about what's coming from my heart and my soul. I'm not thinking about what somebody is doing in another studio as far as my artistic expression is concerned. I just don't. I mean, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't think that's what Nas was doing when he created Illmatic. Maybe he was thinking about Biggie a little bit when it came to the second album because, there was little jabs here and there and that's where the competitiveness comes in. But when you think about where a lot of the most classic records were made, they had to be made thinking, I don't give up about anybody else right now. This is what I'm doing because this is what I feel. This is my heart and my soul I'm pouring in to, whatever recording apparatus that I'm using right now, because I have something to say and I want the world to hear it and I want them to talk about it. Maybe they're not thinking about how I want them to talk about it in 20 years, but I want them to talk about it now because this is important to what's going on right now. And this is I'm laying my life on the line right now.
Yeah,
and that's not about competition. That is about, once again, you trying to create the definitive work.
Yeah, that's kind of goes to the point that I was making about how once they get to a certain level in their artistry, they're gunning for that number one position. So there's going to be something on there that's talking down to someone else that's on that level. But at the same time, they're still creating themselves and have to prove why I'm the best without just pointing out that person. They have to give you a body of work in order to prove that, essentially. That's pretty much what I was saying as far as the artist itself. But I mean, I think what the problem with it is some people see it as a bad thing. The only thing I see being a bad thing in hip hop is how people think when you become a certain age, you're supposed to just be done with it. If you still got the skills, you should keep doing it.
I agree.
I don't see it as a bad thing. You don't see sports as a bad thing because, I mean, it's competition. They're out there to either score a touchdown or run the football down your face and hurt somebody, essentially. That's more violent than somebody getting on the mic and saying, I'm the best out here and proving it. Now, we've had instances where it went left and other things happened, but, I mean, that's the nature of the game of hip-hop was built on competition. To say that I'm better.
Think about Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z's first record. Go back and listen to that album. He talking cash on that whole album about how nice he is and what they've built from Rockefeller. He talks about experiences. He talks about everything. He said it was his life building up to that point was the first album. But he talking a lot of cash on Reasonable Doubt.
Which is why I think it's so hard, for certain artists, most artists, to... if you come out of the gate with a Reasonable Doubt, if you come out of the gate with an Illmatic, once again, here we are comparing artists, but, it is what it is. I'm making an argument.
Right.
You say, okay, you've lived all this up until, say, just because I like round numbers, 20 years old, and you record your album. And then someone from the record company is like, great, now let's do that again in a year. It took me 20 years to create have the experiences that made me create this piece of art. And you want me to do it again in a year.
Right.
But I mean, that's probably another conversation, and that's maybe where sometimes, okay, I had my experiences to draw from for this first project. Now I have to draw on a level of competition for this next one.
But listen, think about what Lone said when he's talking about the art. Go listen, like the flip side to Reasonable Doubt. This is my personal opinion. Go listen to Outkast's first album. I just hear two dudes that's nice from the South.
That's exactly what.
And we just trying to get out here to let everybody know what we got going on in the South. I didn't hear anything other than that. And we just make dope ass music.
That's the beauty of hip hop, though, because like you can say competition is one of the things that is part of hip hop, but you have other artists that their sole focus is on artistic expression, right? That's what that's their pocket, that's their lane. Notice how nobody in those particular lanes aim at anybody, because it's all about creating their sound, their space, and moving on. Like nobody, you ain't never heard nobody really go at Outkast.
That's a good point.
What's the name?
Nobody goes at Black Thought.
Nobody go. You know what I'm saying?
No.
These are different type of artists.
Yeah.
That their goal is to just create a feeling, a vibe, so to speak, and keep that pushing and show how good I am in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like that we put 3 Stacks in the conversation of being the greatest all the time. Nobody's ever tried him.
True.
From a lyric point of view. You know what I'm saying? But everybody knows he can rap his ass off.
I think I think generally speaking, that's kind of like that interesting nuance there around defining what competition is in hip hop is the thing that I always have kind of a hard time with, because a lot of times it's generalized in the sense of to make it seem like everything's like battle intense and that's like what everything is. And I'm like, yeah, not really. Like, I feel like, yes, it's braggadocious. It's like, yes, I'm dope and I'm good. But to me, that's not competition to me. Like, to me, that's just like, even when I go back to my days of an MC, like, I don't look at stuff like, sure, I think like I'm better than you, but I'm not like going to come out here and be like, yo, I'm better at this particular person for this particular reason and all this stuff. I'm just nice and I'm going to tell you why I'm nice.
Would it be fair to say, I think you answered my question I'm about to ask. Would it be fair to say that through your lyrics as an MC, the subtleties can say that?
Yes.
That's what I mean.
I feel like there's more power in the subtleties personally, but you know, not everybody wants, like, in general, I always looked at hip hop and music making and art and in general as a positive thing. And I feel like if you're intentionally attacking somebody or trying to claim some sort of spot or something, it's counterintuitive to like what I always wanted to build. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I still want to be nice and I'm going to say that I'm nice in the way that I say that I'm going to say it. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, I'm not trying to erase the fact that, yes, it was built on certain levels of competition and that aspect, but I feel like there's more nuance there.
I mean, I feel that too, but I also came from a generation that played the dozens or joned on each other.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So when I think about that, I could talk hella shit about you and we go into the park to hoop after that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this could go on every day at school. We talk shit about each other.
Yeah.
But we're still cool. It ain't no problems. I think that's one of the things that seeing from hip hop, them kicking it together. Well, look at your shoes, they dusty, blah. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
I would say the natural evolution of that, in my opinion, is to create a body of artwork, because like when you start off rhyming early days and you start doing stuff, yes, you're rapping, you're freestyling, you're doing that type of thing. You're just trying to be nice. But then the more you evolve as an artist and an MC, you start putting that energy into something a little bit beyond that artistically, and it kind of evolves in that. So maybe it does start from that.
So i.e. Jay-Z. Jay-Z doesn't have to talk about anybody anymore. I mean, he staked his claim already. He's here. There's nothing you can do to tarnish what he's done. So that's why we were able to get an album like 444.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like a lot of artists might start at, I'm gonna give you some of me, but now I have to prove why I'm better than this next individual. And even Kendrick said when he did the Control verse, he said that wasn't in malice.
Right.
That was just to let y'all know I'm nice. And if anybody wants a friendly rap competition, then I'm here for that, because I want that spot essentially. And even if you go through his bodies of work, his stuff, like, you can't say that all the stuff that he's dropped was aimed at anybody except for this past year, and then like a freestyle here and there in the Control verse. I mean, of course, he's taking a few jabs here and there, but it adds to what he is as an MC.
Yeah.
I think somebody that Christians himself as an MC is in them to go for whoever thinks that they're the best.
It's like,
potentially,
like what you said, Lone, applies. I keep going back to Jay-Z, but what you said about evolution, and Terry said, to Terry's point about 444, yes, he would sound like an idiot if he was talking like he was on Imaginary Player.
Yeah.
But Imaginary Player was 100% we are this. I'm better than y'all.
Yeah, I think
I'm better than Mace is what he was saying.
yeah.
I think
And he was right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this also stems just from my growth as a individual and as a person. Like I know the type of person that I was when I was that type of MC and I was out there doing that, and I know what type of person I am now.
Yeah.
And I look at the world two completely different types of ways.
Yeah, as
We
you
are the
should.
new old heads, so we've kind of evolved past that.
True.
a little bit.
I mean,
But it's still part of it.
yeah, fair enough.
Because we definitely, I don't look at music or the world like I did
Yeah.
20 something years ago. I just don't.
But is it exciting?
And that's where rapidy rappers came from too.
Yeah.
And he right though. Yeah, he actually right.
Rapping about nothing.
Rapping.
Rapping.
Yeah.
I'm nice, saying nothing.
Yeah.
Get to the metaphysical.
That's why a lot of them aren't
Metaphysical.
in a position to be able to stake that claim that they're the greatest. They're the greatest amongst their peers.
Yeah.
That they rock with.
Did you hear how many syllables it said right there, man?
Yeah.
You know there are people. I ain't gonna say
He
people.
rhymed about the pyramids.
Did you hear Rez's freestyle on what was he on? He was like, can I do a
He was
verse
on
for
the
you?
He was on the Breakfast Club.
Nah, it wasn't the Breakfast Club. It was like Jimmy Kimmel or something. I don't know. And he did
started putting in
but
mathematics.
It was it was a Gravediggers verse.
Yes.
But he was just like the metaphysicals of the. I'm just like, okay, this has got to be a 1997 verse.
Y'all was disrespectful too when we talk Wu-Tang. I'm glad you said Gravediggers. Was listening to it the other day.
Now the verse was dope, but it
Man,
was
listen.
also very, very like
Yeah, they didn't want to hear that. No. Yeah, they don't want to hear
metaphysical, lyrical in the space
Yeah.
time continuum.
Come on.
Next to
Knowledge
the,
itself. That's
Yeah.
that's RZA, but
okay.
that's not for the Tonight Show
he did it. It was
or wherever he was at. It's
mean, it
not
was
for
good.
that.
He was. He got invited, and they knew it. They know what he's capable of. So
He was like, "Can I do a verse for y'all?"
Should have been like, nah, we good.
Everybody in the crowd was like,
That's why I don't have a talk show, amongst other reasons. I'd be
everybody in the
like, nah, we
crowd was
cool.
like, "What is he talking about?"
Like, don't mess up my advertising money here with these whack ass friends. I was not whack, but ill timed and not for what we try to do now.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, it's not the encompassing point of all of hip hop, but somebody or an artist is. I mean, the whole reason we're talking about this is because Gibbs has been poking at J. Cole.
Right. No, for sure.
True.
He
You know
has
what
been.
I'm saying?
He's been taking shots at him, low key. Yeah. So
It's kind of
not lyrically though. Just
not lyrically,
no,
just kind of like
Poking the bear.
yeah.
a
let
little
me
bit.
see what this might do, but I mean, it makes for a good conversation as far as comparison because to me, I don't know. It's kind of like apples to oranges when I compare them. It's like listening to two different genres of hip hop, in my personal opinion.
And I think that's kind of like when I break everything kind of down, the way that I look at this is I always try my best. Again, I talked about getting older and becoming more mature, right? I try my best. It's literally written on my board over there. You know, it's like artists are people. And I try my best not to compare art. Like I try my best because when it comes down to it, Freddie Gibbs is making one particular style of hip hop art.
Right.
J. Cole is making another style of hip hop art. And sometimes that competition element that gets sprinkled in there, like it's a competition, I feel like kind of like puts this shadow over these two artists that are making their own individial arts, and this
They're
whole
really
new
good at it.
and this whole new narrative forms out of this competition when it doesn't even exist in the first place. They're
or
just
it inspires like the Nas Jay-Z thing inspired Nas to be like, nah, I'm really that dude and I'm about to show y'all. Because if you think about what his catalog was up to then, there was some hits and misses in there. And then when that happened, it ignited something in him. It's like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And he dropped Stillmatic. Stillmatic was fire. That was the best album that he had dropped
Up to that, yeah, in a while.
you know what I'm saying? So
That's true.
I mean, to me it's not. It's almost a iron sharpens iron type of thing.
sometimes
Like let me see what you can do if we go in there. And then you have other artists like a Lil Baby that says I ain't into all that. I just want to do my thing. You know,
Which
what I'm
is
saying?
perfectly fine.
That's fine too.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
feel like sometimes, yes, that's true. But other times, like when we're sitting here comparing like Gibbs and Cole, I don't like Gibbs has proven that he's dropped his last like 9 projects are like front to back.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like he doesn't really have to sharpen any more iron. Like it's already sharp. You know, in Cole,
Unless he feels like there's another bucket that he wants to throw a ball into.
maybe, but I think that's more of an internal thing than something that we do on the outside. You know what I mean? We're splitting hairs, but you know, I feel like it's a cool conversation.
No, it is for sure. It is for sure.
None of this is actual factual. We just have good conversation about this.
Yeah,
Enjoying ourselves.
Go to therapy before you get angry in the comments.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
we're just having a conversation.
It ain't that serious.
a lot of therapy out here that needs to be at.
Don't people want to fight people?
People go to
based off
therapy, man.
this conversation.
Good Lord, y'all go get some help, please. We want you to get it, please.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com. All right, so next up, legendary record executive, A&R representative, and record producer L.A. Reid recently sat down with R&B Money podcast hosted by Tank. And during the interview, he talked about the quote-unquote industry button concept and what he learned from Clive Davis. So let's go ahead and play this video.
How long did it take to garner success as a label?
First couple of years were really rough because we didn't really know. We thought we knew. We had so many hits at that time, right? I mean, we thought we knew. And I'll tell you exactly when the turning point happened, right? So it took close to 3 years to really like have a legitimate hit. And we signed this group called Damian Dame. First act. Face and I produced the entire album. And Arista, our joint venture partners, put out a single. And it was doing okay. So I went to Clive Davis and I said, Clive, like, I need you to push the button on this thing, man. You know, he said, what's the button? I said, you know, like you did for Whitney Houston. Like, I need you to push the button. We were at a conference when I said this to him. He said, the button, huh? He said, sit right here. I sat down beside him, right? Anyway, Whitney Houston comes on stage and Whitney Houston sings. And he looks at me and he said, that's the button. He said, no. He said, do they sound like that? And I was like, oh, so what you're telling me is my shit is not hot. Oh, because I really did think, like, you know, record labels, they take talent, good, bad, or indifferent, and they push the button and shit goes, right? That's what I thought. So Clive pushed the button.
This button that we've all heard about.
This button.
It's a button,
Sit
right?
down right here, young man. Let me
button,
teach
right?
you something. And then I saw it. I was like, oh, get it now.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew, but when you're a producer
It's
and
the
a
other
writer,
side of the game.
and when everybody's hiring you to make records, you start thinking that you're like, start thinking that you're the shit, you know?
Right. It's you. You
Right.
think you sweet.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, so signing talent is, that's different than producing talent. Oh, so it ain't about us anymore. It's about getting the right. So got it. So then, you know, we got lucky and signed TLC.
Signed the button.
And Tony Braxton.
This is the thing. I'm not sure if you guys remember Damian Dame.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Both members passed away kind of randomly and tragically.
That's the one that had when it gets right down to it.
You know, remember the dude had like kind of
You know, like
burned
a-
out situation.
yeah,
Yeah. And I remember liking the song when it hit, but you know, it's not a Whitney Houston record.
Absolutely not.
And it once again, it's the difference. I coming from radio and records and having a little bit of that curtain pulled back, and I've talked about this before. Yes, there are buttons that get pressed. It may not be the button that some people like to talk about, but you know, I just watched the whole video today about in 2005 how it got exposed, how, you know, people were getting PlayStations and hotel stays. You know, they couldn't give them cash because everything was on credit cards and expense accounts. You know, but you know, still money is being paid to move things up and down the charts, even if they, you know, the program director or music director winds up putting things in the middle of the night. That still shows up on BDS, and it doesn't say overnight spin. You know, so there's still that sort of thing that goes on. You know, I remember when I was working for Clear Channel in St. Louis, like all of a sudden there was this whole palette almost of Xboxes that showed up. I was like, wait a minute, nobody in here is even a gamer. Like my program director had one just sitting in his closet. And I was like, yo, can I get this Xbox? And it was like, no, because I don't know. They probably was going to finagle that to get something else done. But there are buttons that are pressed. I don't want anybody to think that, like, you know, just because Whitney Houston was Whitney Houston, they weren't pressing buttons for her.
Right.
You know, because once again, when you listen to the radio and they do something and it's like a whole weekend, it's like, oh, and you can get a flyaway and to see Alicia Keys, and I'm just using her as an example. These are the sort of things that happen to move things up and down the chart when they're not happening organically. So, yes, there is a button, But it's also, hey, you have to sign the right people because there's less of a button needed when you have TLC, Tony Braxton, Outkast, and Usher. And honestly, Usher wasn't a hit his first time out. You make me wanna. A lot of people think that's his first song. It's like, no, he had a whole album before that.
Whole album.
That had joints on it, but it wasn't his time yet. And so, man,
I think
the record industry is just is dirty.
Buttons exist.
Buttons exist. Payola still exists in different ways. We've talked about it, how maybe they're not talking to program directors now, but they might be talking to people who create playlists, and there's no legislation to say that you can't do that yet. But when Elliot Spitzer ran all up and through Hot 97 in 2005 to see who was getting paid what, and they fined them like $5 and $10 million, these record companies, Sony and Universal, whatever. But, when these companies are making $6 billion and $10 billion, okay, $5 million, we'll give that. We'll break that off because for whatever it was we got out of it, it's worth more than that anyway.
And we already know that Spotify's is in bed with record labels.
All the record companies, yeah.
This stuff has been exposed even like recently in the last year or so, multiple times. And, playlisting and how like
the Drake lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, the distribution companies are trying to stay relevant, and they're connected very closely to the record labels, which on the other side of it, you have your actual distribution platforms, and they're all talking to each other. We all know it. So, I
just think it's different now, though, because I think there was merit to what he told him back then, because back then it was more artist development. It was more that went into picking the people that you were picking. Now, you can push the button on anybody that got 1 million views on YouTube. Yeah. In my opinion,
I feel like the difference back then. I feel
like talent was more.
I feel like Clive was gassing him. Like I feel like
I don't think he was gassing.
Absolutely, because
I think talent was leaned on more back then than it is now.
It doesn't matter. But at the same time, like
he knew the formula.
He knew, yeah, exactly. He just knew the formula. He's like, Whitney Houston is the button. Yes, we pushed the button on Whitney Houston.
But Whitney Houston had also sold about 30 million records by the time this story is taking place.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying,
if not more.
Yeah, it was. I do agree with Mike on that.
Yes, there's a little bit for sure.
Different. There's different nuances that went on back then, but there were still buttons that were being pushed then, because for every Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson whose talent spoke for itself, is still like, if you think about how long it took Mike to get where he was at. Mike was a star when he was a kid.
A whole star. Facts.
And that was part of the star powers because he was a kid.
Yeah.
And once he grew up, when Ben and all that stuff came out, his star was kind of dimming at that time.
People think that Off the Wall is his first solo album.
Yes,
no. He had like 5 solo albums on
other solo
Motown.
albums before that.
True.
His button that he pushed was getting with Quincy Jones, somebody that knows the ins and out of the music business, to guide him the right way. You can consider that a button.
Yeah, money's a button.
He was talented, and his talent and work ethic spoke for that. Now, Whitney Houston had one of the best voices of all time, and she had Clive Davis behind her. Clive Davis is a cheat code. If you think about everybody that Clive Davis has put on, whether it be, we just said Whitney Houston,
Aretha Franklin, Janis Joplin,
more recently Mariah Carey.
Was that
at the end of Luther's career? He was responsible for
on J Records. Yes.
He was responsible for actually giving Luther the shine that Luther wanted overall. You know what I'm saying? He's a cheat code in itself. Somebody that knows the ins and out of the music business, the way that it was ran back then, is definitely somebody that can push buttons. Now, he may not be saying that he actually gave me a cheat code. He's giving you like little bits and pieces. He gave me some game.
That's all it is.
And he probably helped him a little bit to push these acts.
No,
at the end of the day.
I think that's exactly what that's literally what he said. He's like, the button right now is this.
Yeah.
You need to find this.
Yes.
It's just, you can't just put anybody in that situation.
You can't just put anybody in that situation. It has to be somebody that knows what they're doing and is going to be marketable, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Even Babyface was a solo artist before they made LaFace Records. And he did good when it comes to urban music. but he wasn't LaFace Babyface, you know what I'm saying, writing songs for Eric Clapton and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to get entwined to where they could push the buttons themselves. You know what I'm saying? Now,
because the button at one point was Babyface wrote and produced this.
Yeah,
that's all we need to know. Yeah.
Babyface, you doing records with Madonna now?
Yeah.
Oh, we can.
It's just like he said. It's just like he said with Quincy Jones. The two have to meet. Michael Jackson had all the talent, right? We know Michael Jackson was talented, but Quincy was already a GOAT. So there had to be a reason they met together. They saw something on both sides for that to go. And then, to y'all point, Quincy definitely tapped the button. 100%.
It's going
100%.
And nowadays, the new button is the what do they call them? Industry plant.
Oh yeah.
Nobody has actual factual things on any of these artists that people are calling industry plants. It's just because you don't think that they're talented enough to be in a position to be in the artist position that you deemed as talented.
But even Michael Jackson
Is this algorithm related?
had a button for Thriller because, when early MTV said, nah, we don't want to play Billie Jean. Walter Yvetnikoff, I hope I got his name right. He said, okay, you don't want to play Billie Jean. You won't play anybody on CBS Records. Mm-hmm. That's a button.
Yes.
Facts.
Yeah.
So when you have,
sure.
so, because Mike based on his talent and based on the fact that Off the Wall sold 15 million records, that wasn't enough for MTV to say, yeah, we'll play this record. Mm-hmm. Even MTV was so racist. And I'm sorry, I got to use that term.
No, it's facts. Yeah, it's facts.
Was so racist.
Apologize.
They would not play hit records.
Yeah.
Certified hits by black artists. Yeah. And the crazy thing is every time David Bowie, God bless the dead, his birthday comes up or they talk about David Bowie, they bring up that interview he did with Mark Goodman, who was one of the VJs at MTV at the time. And he said, well, why don't you, there are other stations, because there were still local video shows and whatnot, maybe public access at that time. And David Bowie was like, I see these black artists and it's like, why am I not seeing these? These are songs that people like. And Mark Goodman literally said, well, we got to play for everybody. And Prince might scare somebody in Iowa. Now, just imagine anybody else trying to get played if they're worried about Prince scaring middle America.
And not David Bowie? David Bowie was different characters on every album.
You could be a different character and be white, but if you're Prince and you dance around a little bit and you got on a little eye makeup, they're worried about. So why do you think it took till 87, 88 for them to actually try to have a whole show about hip hop?
Yeah, well, David Bowie was actually enlisting funk and R&B artists into his band because that's what he was influenced by. I mean, we just talked about Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was a part of David Bowie's band at one point in time. But to your point, Michael Jackson got the button. He definitely got the button pushed on it because he was on MTV and Prince wasn't at the time.
True.
If you were watching Prince videos, they were all on BET.
BET or I remember there were local shows. Yeah. This is the thing. We talked a little bit about the show Nick Rocks, and the crazy thing is Nickelodeon was owned by Viacom, which also owned MTV at the time. Still does, I believe. And the reason, we talked about the El DeBarge record that never got played on MTV.
Nah,
but it's they're well, these songs are popular. We'll put them over here at Nick Rocks. That's the only place I saw Curtis Blow Basketball or New Edition or even Menudo. They wouldn't play Hispanic records, on MTV either. They might talk about them in the little news segments, but they I want you to think about this because people say, oh, well, what about when Herbie Hancock, the very first MTV Awards, he won Video of the Year. Look at that video. Herbie Hancock's not in it. Not at all. So as long as
dummies and puppets
and mannequins and all this other stuff, but to have a black face was that was harder for MTV to stomach than puppets and mannequins and stuff moving around. So I mean that's crazy. And the crazy thing is Eddie Murphy hosted the show. They could have a black host but wouldn't play black artists. Back to the button. Yeah.
The button exists.
There's definitely
whether the button whether the button is a flyaway, whether the button is free Xboxes or PlayStations, whether the button is I can influence whether or not you'll get videos from the rest of my artists on this label. If you once again It should be. We always think, oh, if I'm good enough and there's a meritocracy, it just isn't that, guys. In fact, it hasn't been that since Alan Freed, and in the first instance of Paola, and just getting this taken care of. They talk about it's only evolved. It went from straight cash, to where the record reps would come through and pay your phone bill or your electric bill or maybe even your rent, to where everything was on credit cards, to where everything was gifts and packages and flyaways, to where now, like I said, I believe these record companies that own a part of these streaming services just have unfettered access to go up there and spend whatever money they need to spend to make sure you are at the top of the algorithm.
Think about
like
this.
A politician.
Think about this. Clive Davis is in every documentary that I love about music. They bring him up in the Stax documentary. He's brought up in the Sly Stone documentary, which is amazing. By the way, go check that out if you haven't seen it.
The Luther documentary.
The Luther documentary. He's in all of them. And we talking about from Stax all the way to Luther or Sly. Like, do you know how much time span that is? And he's always a person that. Thank you.
To Puff Daddy.
He's always a person that is a button pusher in all of those documentaries. That's crazy when you think about that. How long he's been a part of pushing the button.
To his credit, too, though, he has discovered some very talented artists. So I think that led to him being able to be in a position to where he can do that.
That's true.
I mean, he did his job very well.
That's true.
Any Joe Schmo can't do the same thing that a Clive Davis has done. Anybody can't do the same thing that L.A. Reid has done. I mean, his catalog and his resume is fire as well. I mean, he signed Pink too. People forget about that. We always think about the artists in Atlanta and surrounding areas that he signed, but he was very instrumental in getting Pink's career jumping off.
He signed some rock groups and L.A. Reid, but like when you just put his records on the table,
come on.
There really isn't nobody in not just quote unquote urban music, but just pop American music that is more important than L.A. Reid. Once again, we're not just talking. Your talent is not enough. Your talent is not enough. You might be able to catch something viral now in this day and age, which is something that wasn't available, in, for lack of a better term, L.A. Reid's heyday. But now we're just in a place where these executives are less interested in your talent than they are your metrics, because the money is to be made in between the songs. So,
moral of the story: nobody cares how nice you are. Not a thing anymore. To a certain extent, it's about the metrics. It's about the numbers.
It's not a game changer.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not even close to being one.
Like that's.
Now I hate to say that.
It's just the added
pushback. I have a little bit of pushback.
It's an added bonus. Otherwise, you wouldn't. But you wouldn't give Leangelo Ball a deal. You wouldn't
put it to the forefront.
That's the metrics.
That's all I'm saying. You wouldn't put it to the forefront.
It's all metrics, and that's what matters the most. If you happen to have talent, it's just a bonus.
It's an added bonus.
All right, let's get into this last one here. Probably. So 2 Chainz, The Alchemist, and Larry June stopped by the Breakfast Club to talk about their new collaboration album last week. Has anybody listened to that? I have not yet.
I have a take on that, but go ahead, bro.
Okay. But yeah, during the interview, 2 Chainz talked about the difference between trap beats and soulful loops, that Alchemist typically produces, and how he has to approach them differently. So let's watch this little clip and then talk a little bit more.
Yo. What about those type of that sound energizes your pen though, Chainz?
My voice is able to cut through on samples. With the trap drums, I'll be having to kind of yell a little bit. I can sit down and record when I'm doing these songs. I'll be having to stand up and record trap songs, and I'll be having to kind of be creative. And sometimes it hit it, sometimes it miss, but I have to be creative around the drums and kind of peek my head out. But with those loops and things.
I mean, God forbid he has to be creative.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Long. Don't do that.
No,
And
I like 2 Chainz, but
things like that, I'm able just to get my idea across looser.
He was like, I have to stand up to do trap music.
Shout out to Looser.
Because he got to picture himself in the club jumping.
But there's merit to what he's saying. I'm just being stupid.
Looser on those beats because it's just a fillet. It's not like it's kind of understated the production, so it leaves room for like the lyricists. Like if you got something to say on those type of beats, you're gonna flourish. Chainz, Larry, they're those type of MCs. Like less is more.
Expound on that. I mean, you like a fillet,
like a raw fillet of music versus like a stacked up. Compare like a trap beat to something that's layered up.
I guess focus on the vocals.
Some of these are kind of just raw and and it's just like a mood, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're just to move their pen, so it's like the focus is on the lyricist. He's been one, the people who know music know 2 Chainz has always been top tier with the pen, like, but he always had the knack to make hit records too.
Exactly.
You know, but that never fooled me. Like, I could tell the MCs, like a Big Sean or somebody who's like, yo, he makes hit records, but he can rap, like, extremely well with anybody who you would put on any list, you know, so.
This project, first of all, Alchemist is being Alchemist on this one. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. This is coming from someone who's a Larry June fan. I like Larry June. I had to figure out what he was, but once I understood what he was, I'm like, you do that better than everybody else, right? Okay. But hearing 2 Chainz rap over these beats, I damn near didn't need him. I damn near didn't need him on the project. I'm just being honest. Yeah. Like, I like him on the hooks. He does a lot of dope melodic stuff on some of the beats, so he's in that pocket. That's what he does.
It's kind of like the Fetty joint, or where was not Fetty.
No, not Fetty. I know what you're talking about.
One with Currency and Gibbs, where. Oh, that was Fetty.
That's Fetty. That's Fetty. That's Fetty.
But like Gibbs shined the entire time.
Bro.
Currency was there just.
And Currency to me is a better rapper than Larry June. I'm just talking about for this. I literally could have done 2 verses from Chainz on about 9 of these.
Gotcha.
And maybe had June in the pocket for the hook and been perfectly fine.
I see.
It's just and this is from someone that actually rock with Larry June. I think he picks great beats, knows how to make good, chill records. I like listening to him, riding to him. It works. But for this, I really enjoy 2 Chainz rapping on these.
Yeah, 2 Chainz can rap.
He's been able to rap, but hearing him and Alchemist line up, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. When it came to listening to that particular project, 2 Chainz shined on there because it was a version of 2 Chainz that you don't really get.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And he was able to pretty much flex his lyrical muscle on there and show you what he could do. And he did kind of outshine Larry June. I ain't gonna front. Are we just talking about specifically the style of beats as far as trap beats versus?
So I think it's more about the approach. What he said about the approach? Would that be fair to say?
I think the approach is. I mean, we can go however you want to go. I have a couple.
Go ahead, bro.
A couple of questions about this, but Mike posed a question here. He says, "How does it make you feel when artists get a chance to talk about what they love to do, even though it goes against what they are known for?" So that would be one comment. Like 2 Chainz.
He just told you. This what I really like to get in this. I really like to get into this bag.
Right.
But what I'm known for is XYZ.
Yeah, this stuff over here.
To me, that's always been very interesting because every once in a while you'll. Truthfully, what Jay say? The common line. I ain't been rhyming like common sense. That bar. Truthfully, I be Talib Kweli, that bar. It's the same thing. You hear artists a lot talk about, man, I just love to be able to get over some soulful stuff or some boom bap stuff and just get my thoughts out. But then it's like, why don't you do that more? Because you can do that if you're good enough and still maybe make it work per se. But I don't know, man, because that's always been very interesting to me. You can do it and love it in the shadows. But who am I to say that everybody doesn't want to make music?
You just talked
make money.
You literally just talked about 2 artists that stayed true to doing that.
That's fair.
And have not seen the success that a Jay-Z has. Or even a 2 Chainz. Like Common has. I'll say Common has seen the success of a 2 Chainz, but as far as commercial success, 2 Chainz for a minute it was a sought after artist.
Everybody wanted 2 Chainz
in order to make their sound pop or make it go off on the radio.
It's true.
I mean, whenever he dropped a single or something leading up into an album, it went right to the radio because he knows that formula very well. I think what this did for him was what made him love rapping.
Titty Boy stage.
He used to go off as Titty Boy.
I wouldn't even say that's Titty Boy. This is pre-Titty Boy. This is him being introduced to rap. Right. And he really likes the art form of rapping and hip hop and things of that nature. Because even Titty Boy, I mean, that was
Player Circle.
He was rapping on Player Circle though.
But it still was a different style of music.
Right, for sure.
True.
You know?
This actually kind of is reminiscent. We were just talking earlier on the show about how Freddie Gibbs got with Madlib, and some people were kind of shocked by that, right?
That's what this is.
Similar. Like Gibbs could rap before, but it's a different type of exposure when you're rapping over somebody who's known for providing the landscape or the soundscape for lyrical stuff.
Well, I think he's in a position now, to y'all point, we kind of alluded to
it's not hurting him.
No, it's not hurt. That's the part. So I respect him jumping on something that's in his heart. I like that about him. But you don't see artists take this type of leap, I guess, on the come up versus the established version of themselves. Because once we get comfortable, the money's made. So now I'm just saying, from what I typically see, I don't know where the risk comes in a lot.
You seen Lil Wayne make a rock album.
But he was all right. Wayne was already good though.
But he did it though. What I'm saying is, you're saying you don't see artists take those chances like that
when
I'm talking about as they're ascending,
like that could knock them off their.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah. That's what I'm talking.
Wayne
about.
was already
Wayne was straight when he did that.
But I mean, 2 Chainz is established as 2 Chainz.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
Yeah, he's straight. Yeah, he's straight.
So I don't
the correlation's not. Yeah,
because I look at it like this: when you no longer have to rap to eat, like 2 Chainz doesn't, but you're not in a position where there is an A&R or somebody at the top of your label saying, okay, we need a hit. We need this for Hot 97. Mm-hmm. We need this for a potential crossover. He can do what he wants now and express himself artistically, which is something that you really don't get a chance to do when you're on the come up, if you will, when you're signed to those major label situations, because your viability is about your ability to make hits. He's not worried about making something that's going to get into heavy rotation and get played every 45 minutes on, urban radio or whatever that even means right now.
Because he already got them.
He already has those, So, and the thing is, I remember there was, I think it was Mercy. I can't remember when 2 Chainz was everywhere on the radio.
Had the best verse.
And I actually,
man,
and I remember he rapped something, because I was aware of 2 Chainz, especially with Player Circle, and then the time he did with DTP. And he said, something like black diamonds, white diamonds, apartheid. I was like, wait a minute, how old is 2 Chainz to even have, the word apartheid, thinking about South Africa? Yeah. And then I looked it up. Me and 2 Chainz are the same age. Yeah. 2 Chainz is 47 years old.
Yeah, that's a grown man.
At this point, are you even trying to make records to try to appeal to that, contemporary hits, rhythmic, you may not even, I'm not even saying he doesn't have the ability, but even with him having the ability, does he want to do it?
I think that kind of goes to the point he said, with these beats, I can sit down and relax with them and actually make my pen move.
Yeah.
Versus me being in the studio and I got to sit up.
Right.
I gotta stand up. He has to play a part when he's doing these trap songs. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you guys a question. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I've had written down for a while, but now it actually kind of makes sense to bring it up. Is music impact more important than the music itself? Because think about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I listen to music that will never be played on the radio.
That's you again, right? But
as
well, we talking in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah, I mean,
say it one more time.
Is music impact more important than the music itself?
No.
Talking about history.
Well, yes, it is. I take that back. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
The impact is more important than the music itself, because we talked about Michael Jackson, or we talk about Prince. Yes, they had impact. Was the music great? Yes. But we also know of music that was not. Look, Who Let the Dogs Out had impact.
Yeah,
it did.
I don't know another Baha Men song.
Nope.
But
I think this
that song had impact, and anybody listening to me knows what Who Let the Dogs Out is 20 years later.
Lone, this is a good one because I can speak to both sides. I can speak to records that I know that have impact.
Here's another question.
Oh, let's go.
Should music impact be more important than the music itself?
No.
If that is the truth.
Not necessarily.
No, because to me, at the core, it's about the music. I've always been that person. Whatever side you want to check that side off, that's me. Mm-hmm. I've always been about the music first. How it's made me feel, the memories, how I can relate. There's records I can go back to. I know exactly where I was when I heard it. That's the music. It has nothing to do with the rest of it. That's the impact on me individually. So I'm going to individualize it. So I'm more towards the music side, but I could see why someone could say, impact from sales or
and
commercial. I can see that.
Commercially, impact makes the most sense. Impact is what's going to make this a memorable moment musically. I don't think it should be, but it is, and because it's commercially successful.
There you go.
You're leading towards where I'm leading you down the path.
So
why is it such?
Yeah, it shouldn't be, because say years we're far gone now. So what exists in the history books, if it's a music topic, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be those impactful moments. Now, somebody that's really into music and decides to go to school for music is going to find out about the other part of it versus the impact. So they'll be like, so why aren't we talking about this? Because this body of work is a lot better than this impactful song because it didn't move the needle like that. It's all about commercial success at the end of the day.
What about this? So the Slide documentary, right? Slide and Family Stone. I learned a lot of stuff during that documentary. First of all, I've always known he's been a genius, right? But I'm looking at the music for what it is, and they talked about how successful they were once they got together and formed, they got the band. But a lot of that stuff, the impact of that stuff was just the music by watching the documentary for what he was talking about versus, I guess, what it was doing on the charts or whatever. So I don't know, man, because he's the perfect example. There's impact on the charts. There's impact on the records. And both are deep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. Like this is
where we have to uncolonize our minds a little bit,
man.
You know,
because I mean, think personally, about it. I prefer personally the overall artist experience versus
I do too.
The impact joints.
I do too. When
it comes to impact joints, or the ones that move the needle the most, are usually my least favorite songs from those particular artists. My favorite moments from an artist is a body of work.
True.
So even if to bring up Michael Jackson again, everybody always says Thriller is the magnum opus of Michael Jackson. To me, Off the Wall is better than that.
Right.
But he has more impactful singles on Thriller.
Yeah.
That's going to make it stand out. Now, from somebody with a musical mind that goes back and listens to things, they might be like, no, Off the Wall is better than Thriller to me. But that's just you speaking from being a lover of music. That's still not going to change what that impact that Thriller did, regardless. The impact stays.
It does.
The allure or the body of work that an artist does and everybody doesn't necessarily pay attention to. I mean,
Terry,
that's just something that stays there, and certain people feel that same way, but it never pushes that to the point where it's impactful.
That side that you're talking about, we'll call it the B side or whatever, is way more subjective than the other side because there's metrics that go with it. Like you can see impact from a commercial standpoint. I guess I'm speaking for the charts, like how records do. We know Thrillers, we know what them numbers are. We ain't got to talk about that. But that other side, like you talking about the other side, to me, that's where we get more subjective because it goes into more about how you feel and how you approach it and who looks at it this way and who looks at it that way. So I guess that's maybe how I divide it because there are metrics that speak to impact that you can't deny. You cannot argue it. That other side is more subjective, in my opinion, where you can kind of get in there and get into the nuance of what you really like.
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
I said, it's still not gonna change anybody's opinion or what those particular songs or impactful moments did for said artist.
Right.
Nothing's going to erase that. No matter if everybody decides, oh, this album is really good now, 20, 30 years later, it's still not going to hold a candle to what happened before.
Yeah. Yep. Good point.
I mean, I would say Soulja Boy has a lot of impact.
Yes,
he does.
You know what I mean? But it's not really arguable that his early stuff wasn't relatively good. It was just very impactful.
Yes.
You know, he's become a better artist throughout the years, you know.
I appreciate
I mean,
I
know what you're saying.
I appreciate you saying that though, because I appreciate you saying that because, you know, sometimes people will say we ignore the past or we're only focusing on this type of artist or whatever. Game recognized game. You can't tell the lineage and the story of hip hop without Soulja Boy's section.
No.
You capping if you try to ignore him. You just can't.
Another great example is Silk the Shocker. His early stuff was a lot more impactful.
Facts.
But he's dropped records in the last 5 years or so where he's
put out something recently.
Where his ad-libs aren't out rapping him. You know what I mean? So like and the quality of the music that he's putting out is a lot higher.
I'm gonna give you a couple more artists who had impactful moments in time and kind of disappeared into oblivion. Tone Loc had impactful moments.
There's a time when Tone Loc was on top of the game.
Come on, man.
Tone Loc,
Vanilla Ice.
Come on.
Had an impactful moment in hip hop.
Yeah,
Now,
MC Hammer.
Look,
MC Hammer had an impactful movement.
yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's more of a movement. I'm gonna give Hammer more of a movement.
And the thing is, even with Vanilla Ice, like people say, "Oh, I hate him," but if I go, "Okay, stop," everybody knows what comes next.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna cap.
People know his. Look, I know for a fact that people know his music in other countries.
I'm not gonna cap. I'm not about to sit here and lie to y'all. I got duped off the single, but I bought Vanilla Ice first album. I bought it.
all right.
You know, we didn't realize we were supposed to hate Vanilla Ice until later. Because I remember it being
His
played.
album was trash.
I remember,
trash.
I remember his records getting played on Magic 108 in St. Louis.
Yeah,
I remember those
on the radio here.
Sure did.
So, and not on, and Magic 108 is the Heritage Black station. You know, so
We
and
caught
once
the
again, I'm
message
talking-
late though. We caught the message late though, because I bought in off the single, but Trey and yeah, you know,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, you
But
right.
when we talk about impact, you can't say that Vanilla Ice had impact. MC Hammer had impact.
Facts.
Young MC, Tone Loc, those people that you may not put in this pantheon of hip hop legends, like they had impact. There's a reason why they can still tour today.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the interesting part of this conversation, right? Because I don't want to frame this as if like musical impact is not an important thing, because music that can impact and influence somebody in a positive way or in general, I think it is good, you know. But there's an interesting relationship with the musicality of itself and impact, and both can be true. It's almost like they're different buckets or something that you have to pull out of, but it's weird that maybe kind of goes to the conversation earlier. Does it even make sense to pit these two things together? I don't know. But the 2 Chainz argument right here about him choosing the trap beats because that is obviously where he has more impact to more people. He's going to impact more people doing stuff like that. He's going to reach more people doing that stuff.
Facts.
But he also could potentially reach an entirely different type of group rapping over Alchemist beats, where he's able to actually flex his pen a little bit more and get a little bit more in depth. And then the question becomes, what is actually more impactful in that moment being for him? Is it reaching somebody where he can actually be himself a little bit more and share who he is, or just throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and having people grab onto him, but not really, you know, none of the stuff is like, it's just, it's what it is.
Well, there's nobody saying, "Hey, 2 Chainz, we need this for the radio. We need this for the strip club."
It's not a strip club. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not like, you know, from an artistic standpoint, it's almost like throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall. I don't want to say low effort, but is maybe a low effort from a pen standpoint.
I think the latter. I think him doing this has the potential to have more impact because there's so much of the other stuff that you can go find. It's not as unique as this. So there's somebody out there that was like me. I'm actually a 2 Chainz. We all are rock with 2 Chainz. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But there's some people out there that rock with 2 Chainz that are gonna be like, man, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And this world is huge. There's a lot of people that I think when they hear this are gonna be like, I didn't know he had this. I didn't know he had this over this.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so. And I'm going to tell you why I don't think so. I think he's remaining true to himself by doing both of them.
That's
now,
fair.
what he's doing now is tapping into a whole different market. Now, I can't say that that's going to be more impactful for him, because you can compare like what Killer Mike did with Run the Jewels versus what he did on his solo joint that won the Grammy.
But I think
You know what I'm
Killer
saying?
Mike was who he was before Run the Jewels.
True, but
he was
there's
different
people,
than the Purple Ribbon
there's people that
All-Stars.
have never heard Run the Jewels.
That's fair.
And he
That's
still
fair.
won a Grammy off that album.
That's fair.
2 Chainz does not have to record another trap album for the rest of his life. And every day in every city, when it's somebody's birthday, you don't hear "All I want for my birthday is a big booty hoe." You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true. That's true.
So whether you deem what he's doing now more respectful,
Right.
on a hip hop point of view, he's carved his lane in the trap joints, and it's going to remain, regardless of what he does now.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is going to. This doesn't make him or break him.
I don't think so.
I don't think it
I don't think it changes his impact either. I don't think what he's doing now is going to make him more impactful in any way, shape, or form.
I think maybe
he might win some more fans, but it's not going to change anything as far as his impact.
I think in that society, I think that's where we differ, because to your point, he's already established for who he is. I'm speaking more to a nuance in terms of those fans that didn't know perhaps that this was in his bag.
I'll be fresh as hell if the feds watch it.
I'm riding around, I'm getting it.
Man, these are songs you can play at any given time.
They are.
And people are going to sing along with it, and they're going to be in there like he isn't talking about explaining, I'm bouncing around in the studio. I can't sit down when I make these songs. Because it gives a person a certain type of energy. I think what we're doing is kind of taking away the skill level it takes to make a song like that versus one that he's making like this.
Potentially. But I think what I'm more so, I mean, he said it himself though. He said like, I'm able to flex, get more down with my pen, and I'm able to you're getting more of my pen in this particular manner, I guess, is you're getting more of him. And that's all that I'm really speaking on, because it takes skill to be able to make a hit record. We all 100%. We all know that, and he's got a lot of them, and he's got records where he is rapping really well anyways. So this isn't like this is new for him, but at the same time, so I think that's more so kind of what I'm trying to like correlate that based upon kind of like what he's kind of alluding to in type of a way, like those trap records I'm thinking
this is his comfort zone right now,
potentially.
So
I just think it's dope that he actually says this out loud. Like, this is something that I really enjoy. That's what I'm taking from it. This is something that I really enjoy. It's a pocket I can really get into that I actually love. I can do this. But I think, to me, that's dope that he even says this.
It is, but he's fortunate enough to be one of those artists that has had success and has done it time after time after time.
True.
As far as, I mean, there's artists trying to do what he's already done.
For sure.
And
That's
he's
true.
like, and it's almost a slight if we talk about him stepping down from that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I don't like.
No,
I don't feel like I don't want to talk like he's stepping down for what he's already been known for doing.
No, I can dig
feel
that.
like he's kind of just in a different pocket right now.
I would say stepping
and
over.
He wants to explore that because he feels comfortable doing that right now as a 47-year-old man.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Still in the rap game and not thinking about retiring.
For sure.
True.
Which is what point you always talk about, right?
Yeah.
But I also do think at the same time, like him doing this specifically, as opposed to this stuff generally doesn't sell in the same type of manner. So there's
not even close.
And when we talk about that in the commercial side of everything, that is directly related to how many people you can impact, how many people you're in front of. So I do think that is related, regardless if we want to make that comparison or not. I think it kind of exists anyways. But no, I understand what you're saying, and I actually agree with that.
And Larry June is one of those cult following artists too.
100%.
Yeah.
So
100%.
him getting on that wave with Larry June exposes him to more fans with a different sound, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm cool with that, but I don't want to
diminish.
You know what I'm saying? Diminish his light on what he's already succeeded doing.
No, 2 Chainz he's a whole legend in terms of what he's done. Like we can set all that to the side for sure. We know who he is, 100%. I'm just giving him his P's for being able to, be comfortable and be confident enough to go step into this bag and actually execute that mug flawlessly, in my opinion. Like he just knocked it out. I liked it.
Which is realistically probably a bag of 47-year-olds should probably be in.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, he's a grown man.
Yeah, like we just talked about Jay-Z with 444.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe he don't want to talk about strip club shit all the time anymore.
Even when the Magna Carta record came out, there are certain records I heard and I was like, this sounds so forced, from what Jay-Z was trying to do. Cause you are a married, dude who's, I don't know if he was a billionaire at that time or
that
whatever.
was the Samsung pushed album.
Yeah, exactly.
That was phone had that album.
When I remember we had a conversation about product over art. Yeah, that album was product. That's probably why it's one of my least favorite Jay-Z.
There's some heat on that album now.
It is,
but when you hear F with me, I got it. I'm like, get this out of here.
Some heat on that album, though.
But then you got The other joints on there that are
Picasso,
crazy.
baby.
Picasso.
That's hard.
The one with Frank
that's
Ocean is crazy.
That joint is hard.
But then like you really.
What's the outro? Oh, never mind.
We're not going to talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between the product that was Magna Carta and the art that is 444.
Now that's a good point.
Yeah, the same body has to flex different muscles. I mean,
hey man,
you might go to the gym and have leg day today, but you got to do upper body one day too. So
no, that's real. That's real.
You get a different type of workout when you're standing up versus sitting down.
Yes.
Hey man,
that's a great bow right there to put on this. That's great. Shout out to 2 Chainz, man. I like the project.
Absolutely.
For real. Him and Larry June. Salute to them and the Alchemist for sure. NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Any type of reviews that you can leave, we appreciate that. Also, check out our Patreon. We got a lot of dope options and things that we give away. We'll see y'all next week. Why are y'all looking at me? Peace.